This is the Genius 180-day review video series, and thank you for checking this out. Here we're going to talk about Genius usage growth. So this refers to the accounting growth with Genius. This refers to the accounting growth. And you see, when as a cryptocurrency investor or as a blockchain analyst or someone looking for opportunities in the blockchain world, many people look at just the price and the market cap, and these don't tell you if there's opportunity. They just tell you how the price has changed, which a lot of day traders like, or other stuff. So here, one thing that's important to look at with Genius are the internal accounting changes, because the internal accounting changes tell us a bigger story about Genius's future, well, past, future, and potential future growth, right? Because Genius is something that can lead to inevitable price increases. That's the phase 3 that many people talk about. We're going to go over that, but first, let's look at Ethereum. Let's check out how the internal supply accounting is changing. That's something you need to know about. So about 2 months ago, right? Here are the first 6 months of Genius's life. And about 2 months ago, on Ethereum, about 164 billion Genius for Ethereum was locked up, meaning it was committed, meaning that this amount of Genius was committed because somebody wanted passive income. Somebody wanted passive revenue from Genius's revenue sources. And this was done via a commitment that goes by a policy, an advanced policy. So these are tokens that are somewhat liquid, but they're not liquid for at least the first 90 days of that commitment. So day 180 with Genius, most of this supply is technically liquid now, but people are continuing to have it committed. There's another thing called a basic policy. This is another type of commitment. It mimics like a low risk, low reward kind of situation, and it gets paid less Genius revenue for doing this kind of commitment. And the basic locked supply of 3.1 billion, what does that mean? Well, this basic commitment, it's much more liquid. Technically, most of the supply can be pulled at any time. So it's good to know. There's also the credit locked amount. This is Genius credit. This is how much Genius credit there is, like outstanding. And earlier, where we talked about an advanced commitment, the supply of 164 billion, it includes this 3.2 billion for the amount of credit that was locked 2 months ago. Because remember, these figures represent 2 months ago, all right? So, excuse me. Let me move on. And the liquid supply of Genius, liquid as in anyone can transfer this supply from one place to another, no restrictions. This supply can be used to buy Genius shares for Genius share revenue. It can also be used to bid for Genius miners, 103 billion. And the burn supply is 7.6 billion. Or, sorry, it was 7.6 billion about 2 months ago. Maybe about 3 months ago, because the recording of this video is based on information from anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks ago and a full month ago. All right, so today, when it comes to Ethereum, that locked supply went up a little more than 6%. So that's good for the supply accounting dynamics for Genius. That's good. That changes the supply and demand ratios, which in the financial world, the value of something is related to how much supply there is for it and how much demand there is for the open market. So these changes, mostly any changes you see in blue is really good. Any changes in red you see are not optimal. And then anything highlighted is massively good, like way outperformed what could have been expected from anyone in the community. So this is a big change, 6% in 2 months. If the value of any token, or even if the value of Bitcoin goes up 6%, then many people are sitting in profit and they're happy about that. And this happened in the course of 2 months. The basic commitments went down 3%. And that's good. That's good in a way. Well, actually, the basic commitment doesn't matter. That's an advanced topic, but the exchanging, altering of how much is locked up in a basic commitment, it more or less does not play a huge impact on Genius's value, Genius's price, or Genius's supply and demand dynamics. However, the amount of Genius credit that was issued, which means the amount of extra liquidity that was put into Genius's contract, was up 20% in 2 months. That's pretty big. That's super significant. Well, the liquid supply dropped 10%. That's great. To put it into perspective, you have like the Shiba Inu developers burned their supply, which is quite insignificant because, well, were the developers going to dump it on the market anyways? Probably, but that supply of the Shiba Inu developers, that could have been just kept aside to make people happy that things were being burned. But this 10% burn represents everyone that uses Genius. People were willing to give up 10% of their tokens for other incentives from Genius's AI. So 10%, that's quite significant. And the overall burn supply over the last 2 months is up 16%. And that is massive. That is huge. But as far as these supply accounting dynamics are concerned, on Ethereum, they're up for the amount of commitments that were made. They're up for the amount of Genius credit issued, which is a main factor in forcing Genius into phase 3, which is like a super value growth. Phase 3, the community has been talking about a lot. And phase 3 really represents is, with phase 3, you can see it more clearly on Genius's market. You will see it more clearly on Genius's market price. You will see it with a lot of pump pricing. Phase 3 forces that in many ways, as talked about in prior videos in this series. But it's important, though, that these supply changes, the accounting supply, it's important that they change over time. So this is a sample of the change over the last 2 months. All right, so here's what it looks like on a pie chart over the last 2 months. This is the past. We started here. Something to keep a lookout on here is look at on the right side, right here. This is Genius's liquid supply, right? And then here is like the amount of Genius locked up. Mostly this is the Genius amount locked up. And then of course we have a relatively small burn supply. And then we have this little tiny sliver here, which is Genius credit. It's in contract liquidity. So it's Genius's own closed market, or Genius's own DEX, so to say. Genius's own liquidity. Keep in mind the burn supply about Genius. These are advanced topics, but you're going to want to see this. Pay attention. I'm going to show you a little animation. It's pretty sweet. But keep in mind, while we're on the topic, Genius's burn supply is something that will rarely go down. And it will drop small amounts, but the burn supply will never reach zero. With Genius's mechanics, the burn supply does fluctuate, but it grows over time. And if the burn supply is growing at a greater rate than the other supplies, then technically Genius is deflationary, which is happening right now. Genius is deflationary, like massively deflationary, not like a little bit. But also another thing to keep in mind is that this liquid supply here, this is an advanced topic, but for those of you who have an advanced understanding of Genius, this liquid supply, this is the liquid supply minus the outstanding Genius credit or the unsettled Genius debt. Okay. So that's the past. That's about 2 months ago, 2 to 3 months ago. And then we have here the present. Let's look at that again. Here's the past, then the present. The past and the present. Look at while I switch between past and present, look at the liquid supply, which is the top right light blue color, in the past and the present. You see that the liquid supply drops about 4%. And then what you also see in the past, the burn supply grows. And so does the Genius credit amount. What I'm going to show you here is an animation of this rate of growth remaining constant over a period of the next year. Constant. Not necessarily linear, but and not necessarily viral growth, but kind of in the middle, right? Because viral growth is the best thing for Genius. Genius has been growing virally. I mean, you got to look at the supply accounting to see that, which we're going to go over more. But also, I wanted this animation to be fair, to be very fair. So check this out. We got from the past to the present. And while I do this, watch the liquid supply and watch the burn supply. So watch the item on the top and watch the item to the right. So there's the past. We go more into the present. By the way, here's the fast forward. This is fast forwarding to reach phase 3. We have Genius in the past, the present, and the next few months later, a couple months later, another couple months. You see that burn supply is growing, that liquid supply is dropping. Now let's look at this Genius credit mining and the liquid supply. We fast forward a little bit more again, a couple months again, 2 to 3 months. And again, you see this liquid supply is dropping. It's basically following a trend that Genius has been following since day one. And the credit mining and burn supply keeps increasing. Whoa. There we go. This is where Genius is at phase 3. It might not look exactly like this pie chart, but it's going to look something like that. Let's show that animation from the beginning. Okay, so here's the past. This is possibly what Genius can look like until the bull market comes, or until like maybe a year from now, 9 months from now. Looks like this in the past. And as you can see, let's get back to this look. You've got this little tiny sliver of liquidity here. I'm not trying to draw things that are not good. The burn supply keeps increasing over time. It increases because of users using it. It increases because users are willing to have some of their Genius burned for the greater sake of the economical opportunities that they are realizing or that they are actively or passively receiving. Yeah. So keep in mind on this next item I'm going to show you, whoops, let's get up here. The supply accounting table that I have on the left, I'm going to reorder it a little differently. And this is what phase 3 can look like. You have a liquid supply of 1.1 billion. During phase 3, Liquid Genius is going to be massively valuable. Liquid Genius is the way that you get revenue opportunities, whether you're holding on to the liquid supply, whether you're using that liquid supply to gather a better financial opportunity with Genius share auctions, or you're using that supply for the utility of Genius NFTs, or you're using that Genius supply itself because you want to redeem it, you want to get other collaterals. Liquid Genius is going to be very valuable in its own way, while Genius shares and other parts of Genius financial utility will be beautiful as well. In that future of Genius phase 3, basic mining could be around 5 to 6 billion. But advanced mining will be about 190 billion. Well, in this scenario. The scenarios can be a little bit different here and there. Burn supply can be almost 100 billion. It could be less. And in the next example I'll show you, it's less. And then Genius credit, really, if there's 190 Genius locked up in advanced miners, so Genius shares, using the advanced policy, there's like 2 ways to say it, the amount of Genius credit doesn't have to be that high. It could be half as much as that. Really, the Genius credit amount only needs to be greater than the liquid supply. So remember, with Ethereum approximately 2 months ago, in 2 months, the growth was plus 6% locked up in advanced mining, plus 20% Genius credit or extra collateral in the collateral vault, 20% as much. That's pretty sweet. And the liquid supply dropped 10% and the burn supply increased 16%. These are a lot of numbers. I get it. These are a lot of numbers. The numbers you see here, they're more of things you might want to pop into a spreadsheet or just look at real quick. But these were Genius's improvements on Ethereum. Right? Let's look at it for PulseChain. All right, for PulseChain, the amount locked up went up 3%. Basic lock dropped a little. And by the way, once again, keep in mind, 2 months ago, the PulseChain data was Ethereum's data, because PulseChain copied Ethereum, and now there's a separate PulseChain, separate platform called PulseChain. But what we have is the amount locked up. In addition, since PulseChain's launch at this time, 3% locked up, an extra 20% in Genius credit. The liquid supply went down about 5%, and the burn supply went up more than 20%. That's pretty massive. These are all great figures. On Binance, the amount of new advanced commitments was 1.5%, really not a whole lot. The amount of basic commitments dropped quite a bit. This could be people realizing that a basic commitment was not as valuable to them and they wanted an advanced commitment. The amount of credit locked nearly doubled. That's crazy, and that's pretty awesome. When the amount of credit, so basically the amount of liquidity that got pumped into Genius's contract directly nearly doubled, and that's pretty sweet. The liquid supply dropped about 2.5%, and the burn supply up almost 20%. So this is highlighted yellow because this is quite amazing. This goes beyond the amount of Genius credit being issued, which is a big part to phase 3, which is a big part to forced pumpamentals. Really, all Genius credit that gets issued means there's extra collateral, which does two things. It absorbs selling pressure. So as people want to sell Genius, this credit absorbs that pressure and removes it out of supply. And as well, this can force the value of Genius on the open market to rise. And that's done through arbitrage, trading arbitrage. So if you're a trader who looks for arbitrage all the time, you're going to want to watch the amount of Genius credit that gets issued. It's going to be very interesting for you, and it's a daily revenue opportunity, multiple opportunities. So that's Binance. And the projection I showed you earlier, the kind of like animation of what Genius is a supply accounting looks like until it gets to phase 3. This is highlighted yellow because this is accelerated far greater than anticipated. Polygon. On Polygon, so here's our one bad item, and it's barely down bad. Not so much. But not as many people locked up on Polygon. Not sure why that is. There could be a lot of reasons. However, people locked up 22% more basic commitments. So these people are earning revenue in a different way than the advanced commitment. The basic commitment is more of a low risk, low reward kind of a scenario. So on Polygon, people were a little cautious. However, the amount of credit issued was up nearly 50%, and that is much higher than that's quite unusual and quite amazing. But at the same time, over the last 2 to 3 months, people have been learning more about Genius credit. You can't really get the best from a token if you don't understand its utility. And Genius right now has that problem. And it's being solved where people are finding out more. They're learning more. They're understanding and they're getting that Genius credit is very special, and they're seeing why. They're seeing the benefits to it. They're seeing how they have a economical advantage for that even. So this is part of that reason. And everyone is early. You are all early. If you see this now, a lot of people don't understand Genius credit. There's no other token out there that has something like credit in this way. Most tokens, credit is considered like a borrowing type of scenario, or it's considered a bad thing. And you could call it borrowing here. You could. I don't call it that. However, Genius credit is a very new dynamic in the world of DeFi. And it is one of the main ingredients for Genius being able to get into phase 3, where it is only increasing in value over time. All right, so in Polygon, liquid supply dropped about 2.5%, and the burn supply up more than 20%. These are very exciting figures, especially when you're interested in Genius today when it's early and you're interested in Genius by the time it gets to being locked into phase 3. Avalanche. The amount of locked, more than 2.5%. The credit locked. This is a not good figure. This is a bad figure. This is something you don't want to see over time. And it could have a lot to do, actually, there's an overwhelming amount of data that suggests that this has to do with Avalanche having the lowest price of Genius across all platforms. This was identified as a problem with one of many of Avalanche's updates and how Genius worked with that. Now, the good news is there are Genius software updates in the future within the ecosystem, an extra contract that works with Genius NFTs that resolves this issue. So that's cool. We didn't need to do an exodus yet, a proof of exodus. If we needed to, that would have happened, but didn't necessarily need to. So what we have here is a bad mark. That's fixable. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see that issue in the future, though. And then the liquid supply has dropped about 3%. That's really good. Burn supply up 15%. That's sweet. So notice this supply accounting is working pretty much the same across all platforms, and that's really good. That's really good because after all, when you use software on a Windows computer, a Mac, or on an iPad, etc., that software should give you the same utility and it should work the same. Genius it's one of the very few, and it might be the only token of its kind, and it's a big contract, that works the same and has relatively the same values or the same value across all different platforms. That's like a Microsoft Office, right? Microsoft Office gives the same value to the user, whether they're using Windows or Mac or iPad, kind of the same. And Genius does that. That's very important. So this is all about getting to phase 3. The supply dynamics, the supply accounting, the internal, like Genius's smart contract, its internal supply accounting is interesting data. It's good data to see. It shows us how we get to phase 3. It shows us how Genius makes itself more valuable over time, which is of an economical interest for everyone who's using it, right? So let's look over this part. So from today to phase 3, right? How do we get there with Ethereum? Well, first of all, only 11% more Genius really needs to be locked up. Only 11%. So our advanced lock supply, we're almost there on this regard. And keep in mind, these accounting supply thingies, they're an example. This arrangement, this assortment of different accounting variables can be done in multiple different ways. But here's one way that it looks like for us to get from phase 3, for us to get to phase 3 from where we are today. About 11% more of the supply being locked up. Let's say basic locked goes up 23%. The amount of credit should be issued about 5 to 6 times more than it is today. That can lock us into phase 3. The amount of liquid supply should drop 75%. Is that possible? Well, in the last 2 weeks, our liquid supply for Genius has dropped, rewind this video, but you'll see it has dropped as much as, I believe, 16%. 2% on Avalanche, 2% on Polygon, 2% on Binance, 4% on PulseChain, and 10% on Ethereum. That's a lot on Ethereum. Okay, let's get back here. All right. So the liquid supply, and this is very possible as the amount of Genius credit comes into being, there's more collateral, and that collateral can be obtained by anybody who has Liquid Genius, but they have to burn their Liquid Genius. So this makes sense. This makes sense, and it's very possible. Let's see. And the burn supply would want to go up about 4x. And this is also, these are extremely realistic numbers given what has happened within the last 2 months. These are extremely realistic numbers to happen in as little as 6 months and as little as 3 months. I would be very surprised as little as 3 months. I wouldn't be very surprised. I would be happily surprised. Now, if this happened in 6 months, I wouldn't be too surprised. I can see it happening. If this happened within 9 months to a year, absolutely. These are very realistic, especially given the growth rate of Genius already versus the growth rate 6 months ago. Sorry, 3 months ago, and 4 months ago, and 5 months ago. All right, so what makes phase 3 really inevitable? All Genius really requires for this to happen is for people to find Genius useful, people to use Genius. And Genius is useful. With Genius, you can derive passive revenue, and many people are doing that. At least across all networks, I think maybe 5, 6, maybe 7,000 people are doing that within the first 6 months of Genius's life. And it's also useful in regards to not just passive revenue, but the Genius NFTs that are just around the corner. That brings tremendous utility to Genius. Genius can be a voting front as well. Like Genius with Genius NFTs and the DAO, Genius could turn into a voting front for, well, maybe for nations, but for anyone wanting a provably honest voting system. Well, I'm reaching out into the far future with ideas, but Genius has tremendous utility. So as long as Genius has tremendous utility, people are going to use it. Makes sense. Must be useful, people use it. But also, as long as Genius gives revenue opportunities, I mean, it's always going to give revenue opportunities, but as long as people want revenue, if humanity, society, has a desire for tokenized revenue, then Genius's phase 3, we get closer to that. So these are the two ingredients that Genius needs in the first place. It's based on the fact that attention and intention is being tokenized into Genius token. And what's required? Well, when you talk about Bitcoin, what's required for Bitcoin to work? You require an internet society, because without the internet, Bitcoin wouldn't work. And you also require that people want to transact with one another. You require that people want to transact in a way that has no banks involved, has no governments involved, has no middlemen, has no credit card taking a piece of the middle. Because those middlemen cause a lot of problems, and it slows our money down. And in fact, Bitcoin requiring an internet society and the desire for people to transact, the transactions are automated. Therefore, robots can use them. We're in a world of automated finance, and the traditional financial system does not support automation. You cannot automate a paper dollar. Wish I had one to pull. You cannot automate a paper dollar. You cannot automate banking. You cannot do it. There's always a human being that has to be involved. So it can't be done. But with cryptocurrencies, blockchains, it can be done. That's huge. So Bitcoin just needs internet society, and the desire for people to want automated transactions, right? Or freedom transactions with no limits. Come here to Genius. Yes, Genius also requires an internet society. Genius, for people to use it, for Genius to be successful, it just requires that it's useful, that it remains useful to society. It requires that society wants revenue. And that makes phase 3 inevitable. So good news, the Genius people, I believe Genius phase 3 is entirely inevitable, which yields and results in a continuously rising value for Genius. So phase 3 is inevitable, and Genius's value to only rise over time is also inevitable. So today in phase 2, think of phase 2 like a great deal, like a good deal, like a good discount, but also consider it a time to still be early, and to also have time to research what Genius is doing. We've had this called the sleeping giant, and I love this meme. But here it's more of a look at me kind of a meme. I'm the store of value now. That is what Genius is turning into. Genius is turning into the ultimate store of value. It's the first of its kind. It's an economically driven artificial intelligence, and the artificial intelligence goal is to make the token more and more valuable over time. And as we see, that happens by supply. The supply and demand changes. And Genius is now outperforming the US dollar. It's outperforming precious metals. and outperforming everything. Well, you know what? I'm going to be transparent in all ways, shapes, etc. And that's important. I'm not going to remain in denial about anything. That's important for my own success and all of our success. When this was written within about a month ago, yes, Genius was outperforming everything. And more so on the PulseChain network. But no, over the last 2 weeks, though, Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing really well. They're doing better than Genius. Makes sense. Bitcoin and Ethereum are the bedrock tokens. And remember, Genius is an altcoin showing the world new possibilities. All right, so for these next one's a little disclaimer. I use and hold most of these cryptos, not all of them. But here's Genius versus pretty much everything in the PulseChain ecosystem, because PulseChain is it's quite a topic right now. It's kind of dying as a topic. But versus Bitcoin, Ethereum, US dollar token, and other small up and risers or meme coins. So a month ago, Genius was outperforming Bitcoin, outperforming Ether, and even today, Genius is outperforming Hedron, which was something part of the whole PulseChain world. Genius outperforming Hex, Genius outperforming Icosa. In the PulseChain world, there was a lot of belief and excitement about this incentive token. Genius has been kicking its butt, except for maybe the first few days that the incentive token came out. But Genius is rocking it. Genius is doing far better than Pepe, the meme coin. Oh, isn't he cute? Look at him. And Genius outperforming PulseChain. Genius outperforming PulseX. These are some of the exciting things people are looking forward to. Genius also outperforming the US dollar, and Genius outperforming Zen. Whew. All right. So what's next? Next after this video is about new applications and new dApps, new software for the Genius ecosystem, as we have the Genius ecosystem constantly growing every day. And Genius is on its way to success. And thank you for watching this video. And well, you know what? On its way to success, a lot of people are watching Genius right now. Even the haters, and that's a good sign. Haters are watching Genius. Haters see people in the Genius community making postcards to give to people to help them find out about Genius, and you have the haters going, nah, postcards, it's not gonna do anything. But yeah, so that's quite bullish. So if the haters are watching Genius very strongly, imagine the enthusiasts and the people who are very passionate about Genius, such as myself, putting in a lot of my free time to spread the word on something that I'm very excited about. It's lovely, and Genius is on its way to massive success. And thanks for watching this video, and just wait until you see the next one. The next video, we're going to go over over the new apps and applications, the new dApps in the Genius ecosystem. Thank you.